Okay, welcome to JC Connect. In the previous class, we were discussing about the how the bacteria are identified in water. Okay, so that we used that is um standard plate count test. Okay, so then these the circles I have drawn. Okay, so that is the indication of the presence of the bacteria, and the big circles I have drawn, they are the colonies, and in that colonies you have more than 10,000, 20,000 bacteria will be there. Okay, so then this is one type of the observation that the pathogenic bacteria or some microbes are present in the water. Okay, I say how to do it. So you have to collect the petri plates. It you will get in the markets. Sometimes you will get the petri plates with the media also, with the media also. So then what you have to do is that you have to pour the sample of water which containing the pathogens or the microbes. So then you have to keep it in incubator for about um, 24 hours or 48 hours. um, if keep it for incubation for 24 hours or 48 hours, I already explained what is incubation in the previous class. After incubation, if you take it out, okay, sometimes you may observe after 24 hours, sometimes you may not observe after 24 hours. Okay, if you not observe, then keep it for another 24 hours, means total you have to keep it for 48 hours in incubator, in incubator. Okay, so then we can observe all these colonies. Okay, sometimes we will count that how many colonies are formed. Colonies are formed. How many colonies are formed per ml? Okay, if you take 1 ml of the sample water, and if you are distributed throughout this plate, okay, so then you just count that how many colonies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like small colonies and big colonies, all you can count it, and you can say that 100 colonies, 100 colonies per 100 ml. Normally the unit is 100 ml. Okay, 100 colonies per 100 ml, or it is just count it if it is 200 or 2000 per 100 ml. So that conversion you can do it per ml calculation, 100 ml calculations. If you use 100 ml of water, okay, so then represent it in 100 ml. Suppose if you use it the 2 ml of water for distributing the sample over this media as well as the plate, then you can distribute, you tell that it is 100 colonies per 2 ml, 100 colonies per 3 ml of the sample what you have selected. Okay, so then one more test that accurately you can represent it. Okay, the previous one, this is the standard plate count test, that you can find out that okay, some bacteria are there, some pathogens are there, you can say that. Okay, but you cannot tell that in the same how many bacteria are there, how many things are there, that you cannot do it. Okay, sometimes even the good bacteria is also there that will give the colonies. Okay, but in some of the very accurate method of determination of the pathogens is the most probable number. Okay, always I was explaining that the bacterial strength or the bacterial count we are measuring in terms of this most probable number. Okay, that is always as it indicates that uh, we can say it is 99% accurate. Okay, cannot say it is 100% accurate. So this 1% will give you the meaning for most probable. Okay, so always it is a probable. Okay, so I cannot say it is 100% accurate, but the 99% of probability that the bacterial count is correct. Bacterial count is correct. Okay, so then previously we used the plate count. Plate, we have used the standard plate, but here we are using the tubes. remember. Okay, see, I will not explain in depth, because of course in depth information is not required for you. Huh? Uh, so overall, I'll explain it how exactly we are doing it and what exactly it is. That much only you can understand it. See, in this diagram, you can see that this is the sample from the pond. Sample from the pond. Okay, so the just this samples, what you have used it for the previous plate count, the same sample you can take it, not a problem. Whatever the sample you have used it for the plate count, the same sample you can take it for this, even for this test also, so that you can observe what difference I'll get it from that plate count test and this. Okay, see, that plate count is only checking that whether it is pathogens are exist or not, but here it will tell you the accurate method, okay, of confirmation that whether it's a pathogen or whether it is a good bacteria, whether it is a bad bacteria. Okay, in this you can say that then the method we can call it as MTFT. Okay, so the MTFT stands for multiple tube fermentation technique. Multiple tube fermentation technique. See, whatever the method I am showing here, it is nothing but the multiple tube fermentation technique. See, the name itself indicates here we are using the multiple tubes. See, here you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here 5, series of 5s. Okay, always you have to use in series of 5. Okay, then we are considering the multiple tube and we are doing here fermentation. Okay, in all the tubes we are doing fermentation. You know already what is fermentation technique. Okay, so then overall the process of doing this, we can call it as a multiple tube fermentation technique. See how exactly we'll do it. See, initially we have to consider the first set, second set, and third set. Okay, see, in this what I will do is that I'll put the media first. See, in the previous plate count test, what we did is that we'll pour, we have to take, sometimes you have to take the petri plate and we have to pour the media along this, then you have to place the water sample where you are targeting the bacteria. Here also the same method. For all these things, okay, we have to pour the media. Different medias are available to confirm different types of bacteria. If you are targeting the bacillus, that is E. coli, if you are targeting E. coli, what I said, if you are targeting E. coli, then media is different. If you are targeting some other bacteria, it will be different. So then for all this, what you can do is that up to 3/4 of all the bottles, you have to fill the media. Media is a food for microbes. You remember that media is nothing but it is the food for the pathogens to grow inside. Okay. So then what you have to do is that for the first set, you have to add 10 ml each, whatever the pond water or where you are targeting. For that, you have to add 10 ml each, 10 ml, 10 ml, 10 ml, 10 ml. And for the next, you have to use again 1 ml, 1 ml, 1 ml, 1 ml. For here, we have to use 0.1 ml, 0.1 ml, 0.1 ml, 0.1 ml. Okay. Then once you added, what you have to do that you have to add one small tube. That tube we can call it as Durham's tube. Durham's tubes. Okay. DURAMS. Durham's tubes. It is a very small vessel. So for this, you have to invert it. That whatever the tube is there, this you have to invert like this. Okay. Then you have to add to this. Okay, like this, you have to add inside. See, whatever the Durham's tube I am talking about, it is a very small tubes which will enter into this small tubes. Okay, which will enter into this small tubes. Okay, so then for all you have to add it like this. Okay, you have to add all. Okay, once it is completed, then keep it for incubation for 37 degrees and 24 hours. Okay, see that, just check that, see that, okay, in this whatever the Durham's tubes which you have kept inside, the gas formation is there or not. Gas formation. See, if gas formation is there, you can see the bubbles here. Okay, in the Durham's tubes you can see the bubbles like this. At the top cover you can see the bubbles. If bubble is there, means gas is there inside that bubble. Okay, so check that how many tubes are having the or formed the gas. Okay, the gas formation is there in all the vessels, or in how many vessels are there. Assume that in 10 ml, whatever the 10 ml you had it, see all 5. Okay, then whichever the tubes where the gas formation is happened, that we can call it as positive tubes. That we can call it as positive tubes. If you don't find any gas formation, they are negative tubes. Negative tubes. Assuming that here also you have 5 gas formation, here also you have gas formation, here you can 4 is there. So then we have one famous table called the MPN table. Maybe I'll share that later. In that MPN table, for 10 ml, 1 ml, and 0.1 ml, and here the MPN is there. Here different columns are there. MPN. Okay. So like that, you have one table is there. In that table, you can see that so different combinations are there. Okay. For example, this is 5, 5, 4. Like that, assume that this is the first case. In one more set, if you prepared here, if you got 4, 4, 4. So then here, if you got 3, 3, 3. Assuming, just we are assuming that. So then for all these combinations, permutations, combinations. So here you can observe that some of the MPN called, here they will give the MPN, okay, like 25, 100. This is standard table, it will not change. Okay, 150, 600 or 700. So like this, the table is there. Then you have to refer the table. Okay, you have to refer this MPN table to find out, see what will be the MPN value. So then based on this MPN value, I can say that, okay, how many bacteria are there or the pathogens are there with the help of, see, and it is almost accurate than the previous plate count test. Okay, and this MPN table you can prefer for many of the bacteria or many of the pathogens and all those things. Okay, so this table I'll supply it later. You'll come to know how exactly it will be there. Okay, this is the how exactly to find out the MPN. So then, see one more method of find outing the bacterial count, that is membrane filtration technique. You can call it as MFT. The previous one you can call it as MTFT. MTFT. Remember that those who are targeting the IES gate, okay, one problem always it will be there from the MPN. Okay, always one problem it will be there, whichever the question paper you can target it. So this definitely they are going to ask. Okay, so if you understand the technique, okay, definitely you can solve that problem. Okay, so problem will be of like this. Okay, so 10 ml it is having a 5, 5, 4 tube. So one more set it is having 4, 4. One more set is having 3, 3, 3. So what will be the expected MPN? Suppose if it is in different combination, what will be the expected MPN? Okay, some standard formula they have used to calculate that MPN table. So of course that is not required. maybe in a separate class I'll explain that. Okay, so other than this we have one more technique called, see, membrane filtration technique. See, in this membrane filtration technique, what we'll do is that, so this is the setup. You can see that it's a setup. This is what the filtration unit. So you can see that filtration unit. Here you can see that this is the filter, which is a membrane filter. Membrane filter. So then what I'll do is that the sample which I have collected, that is a pond water sample, what I'll do is that I'll filter through this. Using this, I'll filter it. Okay, I'll filter it. And some of the pathogens like bacteria, protozoa, they are little bit higher in size. So that bacteria and pathogens will retain on this membrane filter. And this, if you see the membrane filter size, it will be in microns to nano. Okay, nanometers. Micrometer to nanometers. The pore size will be very less. Pore size is very less. Okay, the pore size is very less. Pore size will be very less. If you see the pore size, it will be sometimes it will be of sometimes 10 nanometers. Okay, just imagine that it's very less size. Even some of the virus also it will retain on this membrane filter unit. Okay, and remember that whatever the filters in your houses you are using it, so that will not use it. Using the pump only, we will filter it. Always one sucking machine will be there. Okay, what it will do is that it will filter it mechanically, not manually. So manually it is very difficult. Okay, so then what you can do, you once it is filtered, for example, if you have taken 100 ml of sample and if you have filtered it, after filtration, take it out. Okay, take it out. So then place this whatever the membrane is there on the nutrient medium. Okay, see, whatever it is there, just take it out and uh, keep it on the nutrient medium. For example, take a plate, that Petri plate what we are talking about. In that, place this membrane filter. Place this membrane filter. Okay, this is what the membrane filter. And in that plate, you have to pour the media first before placing it. Okay, then again you incubate it for 24 to 48 hours. Okay, once you incubate it, you can observe the growth of typical colonies. So like this you can observe. Once you take it out, you can observe small colonies. It will be of like this, very simple, same. But here what you are doing is that directly you are applying the water sample to this Petri plate, okay, where the media is there. But instead of this, in MFT, what you are doing is that you are placing the media first, then you're just keeping that um, filter paper here like this. Okay, that is what the method. You can find the colonies on the filter paper, but here you can see the colonies on the medium. Okay, remember that. That is what the difference between the membrane filtration technique and the standard plate count test. Okay, so in the MTFT also we have 3 stages. See, in MTFT you have 3 stages, that is MTFT. You have 3 stages, that is presumptive test, then confirmative, then completed. completed test. So of course this only I remember this stages. So in the stages you can presumptive, conformative and completed test. See, in the presumptive we'll use a different media. In conformative we will use a different media. In completed test we will use the different media. In the presumptive test, okay, sometimes the media will be assumed that it is A. In the conformative will use it B, and in completed we will use it C. That is some of the medias. I'll not highlight those things. Okay. See, the method is same. For A also the method is same. 10 ml, 1 ml, 0.1 ml. Okay. In conformative also the method is same. So this we are going to repeat it for the 3 times. Okay. In 3 times also we should get the same series like the MPN series. So assume that in the first series, in the first, that is present time, if you got 554, okay. In the second stage also you should get 554, okay. In the third stage also you will get 554. Suppose, okay, here you got 554. Suppose if you got here 4, 4, 4, then this will be your final MPN number. This will remember. After confirmation only, you have to say that this will be your final most probable number. Okay. With the help of this most probable number, we can see that, okay, how many bacteria or pathogens are there in the water sample. And as for the standards, remember, now we'll come back to our standards. Suppose if I got MPN 10, whether I can drink it or not, the water is pure or not. So that is a final conclusion we have to draw it, no? So ultimate aim of the conducting the experiment is that whether the water is polluted with the pathogens or not. Okay. So then if I got 10, okay, if I got 10, whether I can, no, it is not possible. You are not supposed to drink. So MPN should be 0. Remember, MPN should be 0 for the drinking water. Means no pathogens should exist. No pathogens should exist. Remember, no pathogens should exist in the water. Okay. Even if you got 2, so it is not recommended to drink it. Okay. So this is with the help of the standard plate count test as well as the multiple tube fermentation tech. We have to identify it. Okay. So till now, this is okay. This is the overall about the biological process, physical characteristics, chemical characteristics, and biological characteristics, and the what kind of test we have to conduct it um, uh, based on the uh, quality of water, okay, or based on the source of water. So normally, if surface water is there, definitely you have to go for the bacteriological test. Remember, okay, always remember that if surface water is there, if you are targeting the river water, then always go ahead with the all these bacteriological tests, and you have to find out the physical characteristics, chemical characteristics, biological characteristics. If it is a groundwater, so physical characteristics are that much not necessary. Even chemical test it is required. Then biological characteristics, of course, it is not required, because groundwater you may not find any pathogens, because pathogens will not exist in the groundwater, because you are taking the water from just 150 feet below the earth surface. There you cannot find any of these microbes. Only in the surface waters you can see that there is a possibility of the pathogens. Okay. So then, so till now we have completed the physical characteristics, chemical characteristics, and biological characteristics. Okay. Now we will move on to the previously what we were discussing about the water treatment units. Okay, we were discussing about water treatment units. Okay, so in the water treatment units, till now we have completed the aeration. We have completed the aeration. We have completed the screening, and we have completed the coagulation, and we have completed the sedimentation. Okay, we have stopped at the filtration process. Then this we have to complete. Then we have to complete the disinfection. Then we have to complete the some of the advanced wastewater, advanced water treatment processes. So there you can see that some of the membrane processes. Okay, that we have to complete it. Okay, now this is just an highlights. Okay, I got some good pictures so that you can understand the coagulation process. This we already covered actually in the previous class itself. Okay, this is how exactly the coagulation process is going to happen. So just it is revise. So I already highlighted some of the coagulants, popular coagulants, that is aluminum sulfate. So aluminum sulfate is Al2SO4 thrice 17H2O. So then you have ferric sulfate, that is FeSO4. It is also 7H2O. Sometimes it is 5H2O. Then ferric chloride, that is FeCl3. These are all famous coagulants. Okay. Some of the coagulants aids. Okay. Coagulant aids means to increase the reactivity of the coagulants. Coagulants aids is nothing but to increase the activity of the coagulants. We'll use activated silica, clay, and polymers. So activated silica, clay, and polymers act as a coagulant aids. Okay. So what we'll do is that, suppose if we are using 100 milligram per liter of coagulant, for example, aluminum sulfate. Aluminum sulfate, we can call it as a alum also, remember. Okay. So this Al2SO4 thrice 17H2O. Okay. Then for this, we'll add around 10 milligram per liter of activated silica. Okay, we'll use activated silica. So thereby it will increase the action of the coagulant. Okay. See then how exactly the reaction is going to happen. So that I already explained. So once this is the water containing the colloidal solids. I already said that we are going to remove the colloidal solids. Okay, first we'll add the water. You can see that these are the colloidal solids. Remember, whichever the dotted points you are observing, they're all colloidal solids. Once you add the coagulants, okay, what will happen is that, and once you start mixing, okay, once you add it, I said that 1 minute rapid mixing and 29 minutes slow mixing. Okay, during this process, okay, whatever the particles are here, okay, whatever the particles are there, it will come close together. You can see that here one group formation, here one group formation, here one group formation, here one group formation. So this action is going to happen. This action is going to happen till 30 minutes. Till 30 minutes it is going to happen. See, once you complete this, okay, once 30 minutes is completed, and if you wait for 10 minutes, then whichever the particles, the clubbed particles, you can see they are going to settle here at the bottom. Okay, so it means that in the second stage, coagulant forms a precipitate and trapping the impurities. Here you can see that it is trapping the impurities. It is nothing but coagulant, remember. this color, whatever you can see that slightly it is of bluish in color. This is coagulant, and these are the solids. You can see that how the solids are being entrapped with this uh, coagulant. This is the color of, you can see that this is the color of the coagulant, and at the center you can see that these colloidal solids. Here also you can see at the surrounding, you can see the uh, the coagulants, and inside it is trapping the um, colloidal solids. So once it is trapped, okay, once it is captured, uh, in then automatically the mass of this, totally the mass of this, it is going to increase. Once the mass is going to increase, so automatically under the influence of the gravity, it is going to settle. So then here we can see that this is the coagulation happened. This process we can call it as coagulation, and this mixing, whatever the trapping is happening, this we can call it as flocculation, and this we can call it as sedimentation. Remember, okay. Then overall process we can call it as coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation process. Okay, so coagulation, then flocculation, then the precipitation is happening. Sometimes in general, what we'll use that we'll use the coagulation process. Okay, coagulation process. If we are using in general terms, it includes all these processes. If you want to um, separate it, and if you define it, okay, we can use this diagram, the coagulation. See, in 30 minutes, I said the reaction is up to 0 to 5 minutes, up to 0 to 5 minutes. See, normally the coagulation process is going to happen. Then after 5 minutes, the flocculation process is going to happen. Then after 30 minutes, the sedimentation process is going to happen. Okay. So normally the sedimentation process will start at after 20 minutes. Okay. But we'll not count this 10 minutes. Okay. We'll keep it for always when slow mixing will be there. When slow mixing will be there, there also you can find some of the sediments which are going to settle at the bottom, but that will not count it. Okay, so this is the coagulation process. um, of course, this I already explained it. Just to go through once again, the coagulation, flocculation, where the turbidity and suspended salts we are going to remove, and the main objective is, what I said is that to remove the colloidal particles which are of size, remember, from 1 nanometer to 1 micron. Remember, it is 1 micrometer, from 1 nanometer to 1 micrometer. Just imagine the 1 nanometers, even you cannot size it, you cannot see it, that kind of particles. It is just like a milk. If you take 1 drop of milk, I'll give you an example. If you take 1 drop of milk, so it is more than around uh, greater than 1,000 colloidal particles will be there. Just imagine. Just I'm giving. It may go up to 10,000, up to 1 lakh also. 1 drop of milk. Just imagine that the size of the particles. Okay, the size of the particles. Okay, then the always this coagulation process is for the removal of bacteria. Bacteria also you can remove up to 5%, not all. If then soil particles, sand and clay particles. Okay, it is associated with even some of the heavy metals and pesticides up to 5%. Up to 5% you can remove all these things, but majorly it is to remove the colloidal particles, and some of the stable particles, which are negatively charged as well as the positively charged, that particles we are going to remove. Okay, so this is in a full scale how exactly it will be there in the diagrams. You can see um, full scale how exactly it will be there. Then This is in a pilot scale. Maybe we'll, um, if possible, after this rainy season, definitely we will have a visit to the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant. In the next semester, you have the that is wastewater. We are going to deal with the wastewater. In this semester, we are going to deal with the water. Okay. We'll have one uh, demo, or we'll have an industrial visit to water treatment plant as well as a wastewater treatment plant, and you can observe how this coagulation process is going to happen, how this flocculation process is going to happen in real field. Okay, because understanding of this process is very important, because we are facing a lot of problem associated with the drinking water facility. As for comparing with the other countries, we are very bothered about the sanitation facilities, especially to drinking water as well as the drinking water treatment and the wastewater engineering. Normally, wastewater engineering, and maybe another 2 to 3 years is already in a national education policy. If you go to the national education policy, um, almost all the um, syllabus, or the syllabus formation, um, or some of the um, activities related to the engineering field, um, they are completely related to the society. Okay, they are completely related to the society. Okay, anything if you learn, okay, that has to be adopted to the society. And just um, um, the AICT, that is All India Institute of Council for Technical Education, they have recommended some of the courses that too related to the environmental engineering, and they have recommended that whatever the civil engineering branch is there now, civil engineering branch is there, that I'll supply that document. Okay, that they are thinking that it should be framed as a civil and environmental, civil and environmental. Okay, because the environmental engineering are playing a very important role. Okay, especially the drinking water and the wastewater treatment facility as well as the sanitation facilities. Okay, because in India it is very poor. They have to improve it with the help of the education system. Okay, so each of our houses should have their own treatment facilities. Okay, those they should not depend on the government. Like that, they are framing the syllabus in such a way that, okay, most of our society-based problem can be solved. Okay, um, that is a one major thing that I wanted to highlight. Mm. So in future, definitely the wastewater engineering and related to the drinking water facility, it will become one of the popular uh, course. And because most of the time, sometimes we'll get the water more that is unusable. Okay, for example, heavy floods, heavy rain, it is not used. Okay, always it will go to the rivers, and it will later it will join to the sea itself. Okay, and drought. Sometimes, if the higher temperatures, if it is going to a higher temperatures during the May, April, May seasons, not this year and the last year, sufficient rainfall we got, but you just think over it the other years. Okay, so there um, we have faced a lot of drought related to the water scarcity. Okay, that two things has to be balanced properly. Okay, so one thing I wanted to tell is that whatever the wastewater is there, the sewage or the municipal wastewater, so our treatment should be in a such a way that we can, after treatment, we should be able to drink it. So that much accuracy of treatment here, the stage whatever it is there, that much treatment technology we have to develop. Okay, that much treatment technology we have to develop. See some of the if you observe some of the Israel technologies. Okay, just if you Google it, Israel technologies. They are very prominent towards the water as well as the wastewater treatment facility, because they don't have any option. Okay, so always we should be able to develop our own technologies. Okay, we should not depend on the other technologies. Some of the technologies are related to this water field, that too related to the irrigation sector. The Israel technologies are more, and related to the water treatment facility, that Israel technologies are prominent. So why can't we develop our own technology to remove any of these particles? Okay, in a pilot scale or in a household, or in each of the houses, why can't we develop it? So that way we have to move forward and we have to do it. Okay. um, so with understanding of this, maybe we'll try to complete all these processes in another 4 to 5 classes, but after that at least we should be able to develop a small unit which can be able to remove at least our own household water, at least the um, our mm, kitchen wastewater, at least you can able to recycle it. Okay, so this recycle and reuse, okay, they are very important concepts that I'll explain it later in the next class. Okay, so we continue in the next class itself.